what I mean? Like, there's no, at least I noticed on this one, like, nothing, like, one was Amazon, so obviously we're getting back to school supplies and whatever else. But there's nothing delineating what it's going to or for. So I feel like that's kind of like, I don't know, is that normal? I don't know. Sure? I don't know.
Maybe let's chat.
Okay, sounds great.
So I'm looking at the paper copy because I need
Okay.
to sign it. So I think for that, there's account numbers that it's going to, so
Yep.
we don't know what the account numbers
Right.
are.
And I mean, like, now's the time of year too where it's like professional developments and like, I totally get it, but.
Subscriptions, dues,
Yeah,
a lot of that stuff's
exactly,
going out.
yeah, but like,
So to me, like, there's, some of them are people and some are places, but I
this is definitely an area I used to lean on Jen M a lot for, and I would ask her, it's like, all right, what am I looking for? She's like, check dates, check, like, it's just an area of my weakness for sure, and I want to make sure that I'm not just like, yep, looks good, because I don't know the questions to ask, and I know that Emery was always really great about asking questions, but to me, I look at it, and I'm like,
So for me, for like what I look at is I do, because that's what I've been told is to look at dates. So one of my questions was this, our last meeting was the 29th, but this was signed on the 28th by you guys. So I was wondering why it wasn't in our last one, if our last meeting was June 29th, and this was signed by you guys.
19th was our other one, wasn't it?
It
No,
says, no, because
you're
it says
right.
our
Yes,
meeting
sorry.
minutes are
Yes,
from June
yes.
29th.
I said it wrong when I read the motion, I think, then. No, I said June 29th.
Let's talk.
Okay.
Let's talk after.
All right, and then, so the other thing is that there are, like, there's some things where it's like, it's, the invoice date is April, but it was probably a quarterly thing that's being paid on this, or,
Yeah.
and then there's something that's looks like it's being paid ahead, because the invoice date is December.
December 21 or
Just
22?
22, just December 2nd, 2022, for $3,000 for, it looks like it's a stipend.
I have to see what you're.
So, I mean, like, to me, I sign it because I feel like we're signing off that these have all been paid.
Mhm.
And I don't know if we need to get into the weeds of this because I feel like it's been through your controls.
Mhm.
But I do look through and sometimes, most times it's like, whatever, but there was a couple here, there's two of them that I see now just looking through it again, that are stipends. But the invoice date is December, so it looks like we're paying those ahead. And then there's other ones where the invoices, it looks like we're technically behind, like it's an April invoice date or a May invoice date. So, I honestly, like, I trust that you guys are doing what you need to do and how it works, so, I'm comfortable with that, but sometimes it does kind of stand out when you're looking at it. You're like, oh.
Right, well, and I had mentioned to Stephen once before too, that, when I watch other school committees, sometimes like there's one of the members that's on their budget committee, subcommittee group or whatever, is kinds of reads it off for transparency or otherwise. It's a city, so it's a little different.
Yeah, I think I haven't actually physically signed it yet, and I just pulled it apart.
So like, I don't know, like for me, it's an area of weakness, and like I said, I used to call Jen M and be like, hey, what's going on with this? Or like, just a quick question, more so than you guys, just to, because again, I do trust that you guys are doing this, but then I start questioning myself of whether or not I should be asking more, or how, like I said, Emery was always great about asking such good questions that I want to make sure that I'm.
So let's talk
Offline.
only, not for, because we're hiding anything, but only for the, like, that, I think we could
Right.
dive deep into this.
Not tonight at 6:30 at night, agreed.
But to be honest, you guys signing that piece of paper means absolutely nothing because the checks have already been cut.
Right.
Right, so you guys should be signing that prior. That's just a practice I inherited when I got here. I don't think we've ever really.
And that's because from the way it was explained to me, and I probably am going to get this 100% wrong, but like you said, we really have no true purview over that because it mattered more when TKMS, nope, that's a program.
TMS.
Was doing
I
stuff.
wouldn't say you have no purview, I mean.
We do, but it you need to pay these checks whether or not we sign it, and they've already been,
Exactly.
they go through a different vetting process. And it mattered more when we had this secondary vendor, not a full-time position, doing in the work. So
Yep.
we would sign them before, I think, when it was
Yep.
TMS.
It's okay to pay them.
Say, yes, we agree with all of these, and that's where
Yeah.
Emery really scrutinized everything,
Yeah.
because we were looking, it was before the checks were going through, but now we have a full-time person that's in that position.
Right.
And there's other checks and balances that are more involved with the town, as I understand it,
Yeah.
on a regular basis.
Let's talk more often, maybe we can come up with a little better.
So lastly, just because we are signing, my only question again goes to, do you want us to date it? Because this is the 28th, the print date's the 30th. If we sign today,
So
should
that
we be?
the date
So it's
on
recorded?
there- On that should be the date the checks are cut. If I remember.
I just want to make sure, so it's recorded correctly. Should we be, because this was 6/28, should we be initialing 7/19 next to our names? Is my only, so it's recorded, right, or does that not matter?
I don't think it
Whatever you
matters.
sign.
Okay,
Yeah, that's
okay. Just so it's like, so it goes in the minutes.
Put the date on.
It might look like this should be in the minutes from 6/29 is my only
Previous.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just so that it's known that it wasn't like an error, that we didn't, you
Yeah.
know, upload it to the right folder.
Can you put the date next to my name, please?
Yep.
So with all of that discussion, can I have a motion to approve warrant number 0081? I have trouble talking today, I'm so sorry.
I'll make a motion to approve warrant 0081.
Second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Next up, visitors'
I
comments.
didn't date it.
Any citizen wishing to speak before the committee must sign in with the administrative assistant prior to the opening of the regular session of the school committee. The visitor will identify themselves by name and address and shall speak for no longer than 3 minutes. For anyone who is unable to sign in ahead of time, we ask that you clearly state your name and address so that this information can be included in the record for the meeting.
Alex, can you go to attendees, please?
Yeah, Nancy and Ally.
Okay.
Thank you.
Seeing none, we'll move along. New business. First up is the vote for the donation from Ms. Shepherd.
Yeah, so Megan's not here today, but we received 3 donations, 2 stoves and a refrigerator, actually from John Sullivan, our facilities coordinator. And we just need approval to accept those. Our plan is that those will go into the new Pathways program, the life skills program that we've been preparing to establish next door as a continuation of the program here at East Meadow.
Are they still having them up in that room?
Yes, and we'd love for you guys at any point, like literally in the summer, you could let us know at any point to come take a look. The maintenance crew has done a lot of good work, and the floors got put in last week, cabinets are painted, these, if and when approved, the fridge and stove will go in, so, and it's come a long way from what it was the past couple of years, which was really a storage space.
So it's the back right room?
If you're, it's, yeah, right at the top of those back stairs to your
Yeah.
right, that first room.
Yeah.
It was the home ec room with Mrs. McVeigh.
Yeah.
I
It's starting
did
to
see
look
it as a
that
home ec
way,
room
yeah.
a few years, I don't know at what point did a tour or something, and then it became a storage.
Yeah.
Instead of
It
a-
really became storage after COVID, right?
Yeah, right at the
During-
beginning of COVID, that's when, right, we were trying to find space for teachers. Teachers had to move like all their extra stuff out, so, but they've done a really nice job. It's been a lot of work. But if you're interested, anytime, give me or Megan a shout and we can take you up there.
So do we need to read out each of the things, or can we just accept it as a total, the 2 stoves and the refrigerator?
I think you can just do it as the 2 stoves as a refrigerator and a refrigerator.
So can I have a motion to accept the donation from John Sullivan for 2 stoves and the refrigerator?
I will make the motion to accept the donation on behalf of the Pathways program. Do I have to say specifically from John Sullivan?
Well, I
For the
think it's
new
more
Pathways
important to
Life
accept
Skills
from John
program.
Sullivan than for the Pathways program, because
Okay.
it might otherwise be used down the road for other things, is
Could
what we
be.
had said, right? Like,
Okay.
you know, I don't want it to be like it can only be used for that particular,
Okay,
program.
so we'll accept the donation from John Sullivan for the 2 electric stoves and the refrigerator.
can I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. And public thank you to Mr. John Sullivan
Yeah, that's
for
great.
the donation. That's really wonderful.
Yes, thank you.
Next is the athletics COVID clearance.
So, I'm going to invite Mr. Dylan Dubuque to come up and take this opportunity to also let the committee and the public know that Mr. Dubuque, many people know him as one of our physical education and wellness teachers at Granby Junior Senior High School, and he will be assuming the role of athletic director, really beginning immediately, as soon as I'm done talking. But really excited to have Mr. Dubuque in the role. He's coached, he's been in the Granby Public Schools, I think 5 years now, and really nice. I think having an internal person is certainly helpful in terms of building relationships with our student athletes and their families. And as I shared with you, Brittany had resigned due to some conflict, so sorry to see her go, but really happy to have Dylan in the position, and he seems eager to hit the ground running. And he has a short ask of the committee tonight.
Yes, so, thanks. As you guys know, I'm Mr. Dubuque, Dylan Dubuque. This is going to be my 6th year teaching in the district, and excited to take on the new role of athletic director. So our current policy for COVID student athletes that test positive for COVID, it was a requirement that they saw their physician to get cleared to come back to play. We're asking to change the word requirement to recommendation. That's within the athletic department administration and our nursing team. And the nursing team had reached out to Dr. Tom, who kind of approved of this. He said to keep an eye on any student athlete that returns from COVID, keep an extra eye on them if they're seeing fatigue more so than normal. Then as the coaching staff, they should step in and recommend that they go see their primary care doctor at that time. So again, it's just a change from a requirement to a recommendation that you get cleared to come back to play.
And if they follow, if they choose not to go to the doctor, is there a certain amount of time that they have to be away from play, or is it just following the guidelines that are in place as long as it's like 5 days after testing positive and no visible symptoms?
Right, yeah,
Okay.
so we're going by the current guidelines.
Excellent. Any other questions or comments on that? And you said the nursing staff and Dr. Tom are in alignment with this?
Yes.
I'm guessing that's why Nancy's on, if we had any questions for her as well. I do not.
I don't know, either. Makes sense to me.
Can you,
Yes.
do we want to promote Nancy?
I mean, I don't think we have any questions.
Okay.
I think if
Yeah,
we
I think we're good.
follow the guidance and
Yeah.
professionals, it's
Right, they recommended, I'm not going to ask further from,
Yeah.
you know.
I feel like they know more than I do at this
Right,
point,
yeah.
so.
I asked the same questions as you're all asking, and
Yeah.
Dr. Tom had approved it as well, so.
Sounds good.
Is there something that you want us to read from, or can we just generally right now just make a motion to?
I think the only thing that you're changing in that policy is the word required to recommended.
Yeah, so I would say just word it that way, and we should be covered.
In the
All you,
return
girl.
to play.
Oh, I know, that's why I wanted the whole sentence. Okay,
I can say it, and then you can say so moved if you want.
perfect, why don't you do that?
Oh,
Okay.
here's
Can-
somebody.
Well, only because I just want to make sure that if I.
What is the name of the policy?
Return to play.
The
Okay.
return to play
The
policy?
COVID return to play policy.
COVID return to play, okay. So I will make a motion to approve,
Yeah,
to
update.
to update the return to play COVID clearance from requiring a doctor's
Nope.
note to recommending a doctor's note.
Can I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dylan.
you.
Congratulations.
Nice to
Thank you.
meet you and, yes.
See you next meeting.
You're quite a bit.
Okay, next up is enrollment dashboard.
So, the enrollment dashboard is up to date, so, the number at the top might be startling, but it is really because it accounts for our graduates, and, new enrollments don't become official until registration and everything has happened. Even the students who have been accepted into school choice, we're still receiving packets. So those numbers aren't accounted for here.
Except I'm
Yeah.
not seeing anything.
It's just taking a while to load.
My internet's very slow.
Okay, all right, there we go.
So really, this is closing out the 2021 school year.
Yeah, that last number, do I have that right, June? Am I looking at June?
June, yep.
Is it?
That's why he said it started.
Yeah, so it's the 65
Does that include the
graduates.
seventh grade, the upcoming seventh?
Oh, okay.
though?
So the only thing that,
This is the whole district.
the only thing that happened
still-
really was the 65 graduates were taken out of that total number.
Yeah, but, since 60 is 120. Okay. All right, I'm good.
No, not 120.
60 plus 60. I was just
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
quick math.
Gotcha, gotcha.
So that makes 720-ish, 719.
Yeah, we were
So,
at
like, we'll
724.
see last year, the July numbers, we see the 53 graduates, 72 in, 26 out. So the graduates are now accounted for in June, and really, the numbers that move from this point on really should just reflect 22, 23. 22,
So in this, okay. So by June, the Ks are registered but not enrolled.
Not all, right?
Because we need to have all their packets and all of that part, right? Like-
Yep, and even students who are new, planning to attend the high school, the registration, like, we're receiving some of the paperwork, but the meeting, because the guidance counselors aren't working and things like that, they're scheduled for August when they become official. So it's some data entry and things like that that get cleaned up in the month of August. So I think the next time, August should be the same, September, we're likely to see the movement.
So I
As
have a-
long as it's moved by October.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
And this is something that compiles at the end of the month, because July of last year, we were at 713.
Yeah, so last year was our first time doing this too, so it accounted for, we didn't, like, the graduates got removed in July, everything was
Got
getting
it.
pushed in, so it's just being spread out a little bit more.
Okay.
And my computer's
And-
totally
wanna-
not loading,
And the
but
one thing- the
is
other
it
thing that I
listed further down? Does it show
65.
seniors that are out? Does that
The other
make
thing I
sense?
should point out is the new charter and school choice numbers are entered at the bottom of the page.
Oh, the
Okay, so
buses.
28K though,
Yep.
But this is from last year, like the school year that just finished.
Well, that's preschool, PK,
Yes.
right?
So
Well, no,
2021
because-
was the
because
338.
I think these-
21-22 was 283. So it was 7 less school choice outs,
Yep.
but
I thought you said 28, so I got
this
confused.
does not include
I don't
private schools.
Correct.
So the number could be lower, would be more people
I thought you said
out,
28.
but it doesn't count
No.
private school.
And doesn't impact us, other
Oh,
than
okay.
our enrollment.
Okay.
Yes, correct. Yep,
I
Yeah, I'm starting to get it.
yep.
This doesn't
I
include.
do have
it.
a-
If there's no senior.
correct. I do have a question.
Sure.
Seniors aren't listed. When I look at this,
It's the first chart.
the first chart, the breakdown,
Okay.
it shows K as 48 and pre-K as 28. That, is that, I know before we were talking about like for next year's class, so is
This is
that?
21, that's 21, 22. That's the school year that just finished.
Okay. Okay.
because we haven't updated all.
Yeah, so like, this is our first time
There's three
looking at the
classes.
dashboard
No, no,
with
right.
the end of a full
Right,
year.
right,
We're
right.
starting to add some data from this upcoming year, like the school choice seat to people have applied or been accepted, the school choice in, out, charter.
Okay,
out
so yeah, it
numbers,
just
like-
hasn't switched yet for like the pre-K will be the K and so on.
Yeah, so like,
Gotcha.
a good example of that is, like the one, you see, like now we only have the one tuition student, we had always had those two tuition students. It accounted for the graduate because we moved the graduates, but the student that was in 7th grade is still in 7th grade on this, because it's still accounting for that 21, 22 school
Okay,
year.
yeah. Yep. Gotcha.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And then those updated numbers, this is, again, we can talk about it at another meeting as well if you wanted. This is the first time that you all will see the first year we looked at it and this year, because this number just got put out by the state at the end of June. And that's what we said we would wait for, is the official number from the state.
For,
Choice in, choice out, and
Yeah.
charter out.
okay. Wasn't there one that did the difference, or no? No.
Any other questions on the dashboard for now? Really, I mean, I still love this tool. I think it's super helpful.
It adds so much clarity to it, definitely,
This
so.
should be able to bop month to month too, like
Yeah.
just to track.
Yeah, and if you have feedback or questions, Stacy and I mean, we can make ourselves available at any point too. Doesn't just have to be here.
So the
Like, if
first
there's certain
September
things-
meeting will switch to 22, 23,
Mhm.
right? Okay. All right.
All right. Okay to move on? School
Sounds good.
capacity.
So school capacity, again, not much of an update based on numbers. We're still seeing, we're still right in that area for kindergarten. I think that was the area where we were really watching. Still right in the area to say, like, it's 2 classes. We don't have the flexibility to add open spots. One thing that you will notice a little bit in the dashboard and related to school capacity, there were, last month I told you, we had in 5th grade, we had closed all the school choice spots. Ends up, that's not true because 3 people had applied to the 5th grade thinking like it would be the 6th grade, but we didn't have any openings in 6th grade. So we had to respond back to them that there were no openings in that grade. So,
Got it.
Excellent, okay. They applied because the student was currently in 5th grade, not realized, got it, okay.
yes.
That would be something I would do,
Yeah.
honestly.
Like you'll see school choice seats 22, 23, application received, no available openings. That's that 3 in the 6th grade column.
All right, any questions on that?
Just trying to find that part on there.
It's lines like 4 through 22. It's the middle chart.
Right. See it. So that one is updated,
Yes.
I guess, 22, 23. So when it says the next year at the top as like the header, then that's the school year that it's following?
Yeah,
is
like
that-
this is where some of the confusion comes in because we opened up the school choice seats. We have invited some people in, so we wanted to capture that information. So that information is for next year, but not reflected at the top number.
Got it.
Got it, okay, that makes sense. Okay,
So it would, sorry,
sorry.
now you gave me more questions. So if we've received, approved, accepted means we received it? Is that,
That they've accepted that school choice
application
seat.
received, no available openings? There it is.
Right.
Got it. Okay, I'm good. Thank you.
Are you good?
Not really, hang on.
I knew it. She usually looks at me when she's good, and she's still looking at her computer moving around, so.
I am now. I'm good. Thank you.
Not sure I believe you, but I'm gonna.
I did look at you that time. I'm good.
Okay.
I'm moving on, closing.
School committee retreat.
Yeah, that was a fun form to fill out.
I realize I don't really have a lot of availability.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't even know.
I don't think I filled it out.
Your computer just shut off.
Yeah, I know, I'm trying to restart it.
So we only got the results back from Audrey on that?
I submitted mine.
You're
Oh,
welcome.
did they come today? After?
And I saw it and I was like, oh my God, probably the last one doing this.
Yeah.
So then we have,
Didn't,
I think I only had one date, like the 16th or something.
It's one of those
I
times.
think I looked at it and I was like, oh, I'm gonna come back to this, and I forgot, so sorry about that. But, I do have some availability in there. I just knew that some of them were gonna be really tricky, because everyone's schedules are all over the place.
yeah, so we can send it back to, we can get it to George and we can send it back to, or you can take the
Did
time.
Jill?
Jill? No, I don't think so, right?
Did you get mine? Did you see it?
I'm not saying,
I did it whenever you sent that email.
okay, hold on, I haven't looked since one.
Okay.
So, yeah, so even so, with 2 responses, we probably want, and again, this is something, if it bleeds into September or something, then,
I know, but I really
Idea.
want to make sure we start off on the right foot of getting our goals solidified too, so that you can have your goals, like so.
And I
We
think
have
with
to, I
this,
feel like we need to make sure we make it a priority to just get it done.
I think it needs to
even
be
if
a
it's-
priority, but it's gonna be very hard for all.
Well, so priority's great for me, but middle of the day in the summer, like
Oh, totally.
I'm still working from, 7:30 to 5:30.
I literally sat there and
so-
was like, yes, 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 like clicking almost like every single box that fit, so.
Yeah, I had one box. Because we're gone for 10 days, and then, the middle of the day ones, that's just not
Yeah.
an option for me.
So we should add to the calendar to book this retreat
yes.
earlier
in, like,
next year,
March.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to get it on there. Even if we get it in June or, I don't know.
I was wondering that too. Would June be easier than the summer?
Right, right.
Could we almost do it before
Well, and I
vacation?
know we talked next
Well,
year about trying to move the
evaluations,
evaluation up
exactly.
and things like that,
Because
so
I
that
think getting
might
everyone's
allow us
vacations on
to-
track is gonna be very difficult. It seems to be proving very difficult.
Yeah, that's,
Every
we've
year, we're
experienced
getting a
that with the
little better.
leadership team too, and trying to figure out things, so
Right.
I don't think that's
I just,
uncommon,
Do we
certainly.
know where the calendar is now?
I don't. I'm having trouble with the primary folder, because I was used to looking for stuff, and I'm just not
Can't
good
get a
at this,
screen.
I guess.
I made a quick link, so it says 22-23 now. So that definitely helped. But is it under? The work groups? Thought I saw one for all of the work groups. Monthly calendar.
Where?
So when you open it now, it's school committee resources is the first thing.
Uh-huh.
So once like the whole folder was shared, I kind of created a quick link and renamed it 22-23. So now it's on my main page. So if I were to add it to the count, what can I?
Oh, monthly calendar. Mine, this one, 21, 22, but it should be 22, 23, right?
Every year, I guess we'll have to rename it, yep.
Okay.
so let's resend that email so that we can, and put a,
Jackie just resent it today. The doodle. So, all right, we'll,
Okay.
because it's scheduling, we can also do this over email. So
Yep.
we can, you know, once we get the
Sounds
doodle, we
So
can.
once everybody completes it, or a majority complete it, we can send out where there's commonalities, and then try to narrow those dates.
So we'll have this on the next agenda so that we can build an agenda for the
Finalize it.
retreat.
Excuse me.
Is that not okay?
Sounds good to me.
Okay. CORI policy.
Whether or not we've heard back from Tracy.
Or Kimberly?
I didn't get anything back on this one. Did you reach out to Tracy too?
Nope.
No, yeah, I didn't.
I know from the minutes that it said that you'd reach out, not Tracy. Sorry.
Kimberly, so I reached out
Sorry.
last month, and she said that, like I had said, I forget what I was supposed to do on this one, I'm sorry.
Well, she said there really wasn't.
There wasn't a policy, so the conversation last month was if we wanted to adopt it in practice versus having it as a policy, then what would be preventing us from doing that? And really, then that would be up to us. But the sticking point last month was if we get to somebody and they're like, no, I'm not going to do it, then is there any recourse? And the answer to that would be no. If it's not a policy, it's just your past practice, then, you know, we would have to then let the principals or whoever know that this person doesn't have the.
Great, if they were to come to visit.
I have to say, I keep waffling on this a little bit. At first, I was like, yes, we really need to do that. But then I feel like if it's not a policy, which we kind of said we weren't going necessarily to do, then we're singling people out, like, oh, they decided to not do this.
Right.
And it's like you're putting, I don't know, it feels like you're putting like a negative vibe on it if someone chooses to do it. So I go back and forth because
I just think like if that's our practice, that's our practice. Like it becomes like it's just one of the things that we do if it becomes our
But
practice.
it's a practice and we can't enforce it, but then we have to let people know.
It's a practice, it's not a
Policy.
policy. Like,
But then
that's
at the
just
same-
is what it
But
is.
that's
Then
what
why-
he's saying though, so if it's a practice and we're doing that, then.
I think like
then we
the
have to
chance that
inform-
someone's gonna be like, oh no, is gonna be rare. You know what I mean? Like I
But
feel like
if it
it's.
is rare and there is a possibility, then you're putting a negative connotation on someone is all. I'm just playing devil's advocate. Like, to me, I
I don't
go,
think it's a negative. I just think it's,
well, yeah, because you're saying this person's not following our practice.
yeah, but turn on Facebook, anywhere else, like everyone has their views on their beliefs and whatever else. I don't know.
But Facebook is a different thing.
I'm just saying in general, like there are so many different fish in the sea with many different beliefs and whatever else. And I think part of, in the world, like you need to, I don't know, like I stress on like the one person that might not say no, so now we're not going to do it. Like it's just, if it becomes our practice, it's our practice, and if the person chooses not to, that's their choice. Like move on. Like I don't think it needs to be this big thing, personally.
My only odd thing with it is, in a way, if we go forward with the policy, but essentially can't really enforce it in a way, what's the point of having the policy?
Well, it isn't a policy.
That's my only-
though.
well-
It would be just a practice.
It'd be a practice that we really can't enforce.
Well, I mean, it's.
Right? But do you know what I mean? It seems
Right,
like.
but at the end of the day, our job, and again, this for me is a bigger umbrella, is the safety of students. And if people are going to be coming into the building, you know what I mean, then yes, they realistically.
I guess that's where,
But then that's a
where,
building
that's
Right.
where
policy.
I'm, because we don't query every single person that comes into the
Correct.
building. Every person that comes into the building is signed in. Like, you know,
Well, it depends on what they're,
as a school committee
What
member, if
they're
I come
doing.
in to see Stephen, I still
Right.
sign in.
As a parent, you're going to sign in.
So it's not like we're just allowing people to come in. But so if we're gonna have this be our practice, we're not running queries every time someone comes into the building. And I feel like those are the people that we more have to worry about, just some general Joe Schmo coming into the building. Like, I see both sides of it, but like, to me, it's like getting into the weeds almost of what the policy is trying to protect. And I get we're trying to protect the students, but we already have safeguards that are actual policies about visitors signing into the building. Every building, no matter what building. We don't CORI every single person that comes into the building. We absolutely don't. We CORI volunteers, we CORI chaperones, but we don't CORI every visitor.
I just feel like with our role, we have the potential to spend a significant amount of time
Where, though?
in the building. Like, I know in where I teach, they'll come in and they'll spend a half a day in the building.
The school committee members?
Yeah, they'll do walkthroughs and,
I think
you
it's
know,
because they're getting paid. I don't know who's spending
they
that.
do get paid.
Yeah, we do not.
I understand that.
And it has to be unaccompanied. And then I guess my only other thing with a CORI is only as good as the day you run it. So that's like just the only other caveat it is. Like, it's
True.
for 3 years, I could,
It's like,
so it just gets a little,
it's on that notion though of keeping honest people honest, you know what I mean? Like, it's on that notion too.
But even if a school committee member comes in, they should not be unaccompanied. I don't care CORI or not.
Yeah, and I would think in most cases, there, you
They
wouldn't
are,
be
right. It'd be one of
unaccompanied.
those, like,
I
if
think
they were
you're right,
coming
that
in to
it's-
see a specific, our new curriculum coming out, and they wanted to sit and observe, you know, that, they could come in and they could sit in a classroom to observe it in whatever grade without, and then if there was a call and somebody, things happen and a principal or whoever brought them in needed to go somewhere, they could leave the room and it be okay. Like, it's one of those, it's a rarity that it's gonna be needed, but they couldn't be like, oh, you have to come with me now, we have to go, because I have to take this call or handle this situation or whatever else. I know.
Because
It's all
that
good,
rarity
like-
is just about as rare to me as my one person that refuses to do it.
Correct, exactly.
So, you know, tit for
Yep.
tat, sort of, like.
Oh,
you know,
totally.
But
Absolutely.
to me, I've been on school committee for almost 5 years, and I've not come into the building ever unannounced, nor have I walked around or tried to, you know, well, unannounced as a parent, but never in a school, you know,
Capacity. Yeah, I
signed in
wasn't
because someone
unannounced
forgot a
either,
plate,
but
or
I've
someone
come
forgot a
to-
book, or phone charger, or whatever charger, you know, like, but, you know, I think we already have safeguards in place that are doing that. We can, 100% on the record, I am not opposed to a CORI policy, and I feel like I'm trying to feel like I have something to cover up. I absolutely don't. I'm already CORI. Like, like, I can do it, like, let's do it, bring it on. But to me, it seems like if we're going to set a precedent and we're going to set a policy for it, what are we trying to protect?
Well,
And
I
our
think when it
school
was
committee
brought up
members
that there are other people than districts that do it. So it's just whatever we choose, you know, if you're
But I-
dead
I-
set
And I
against
think
it.
that
then-
was the conversation last month, that some of those other places that may do that have similar or the same policy as we do, their practice is just different. And I
Correct.
think that's what got us into this conversation.
The weeds
last month.
of the discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, and, right, so
And then
when a
I-
school committee member, like, if, I think part of this is part of a bigger conversation
Yes.
too, about the onboarding process of school
Correct.
committee members, and
Correct.
obviously I'm just
Exactly.
learning that as I go a little bit now. If we just had the CORI form in the packet, it would never necessarily, like, I would never announce at the school committee that school committee member X
Didn't
didn't fill
choose
out
to.
their,
Right.
so
Which
like,
is, that would
no,
be a learning the.
I would have to
principals.
let the principals know if that school committee member had set up a time to come in, that they would need to be accompanied.
And then
So,
my other
yeah.
thing is, I personally don't want it to become our practice that school committee members show up unannounced and are wandering around the school, CORI or not.
Oh, sure. Yeah, no,
You
they
know, so
shouldn't.
if we're,
Agreed.
if that's what we're doing it for, is so that they can be in the building to just kind of roam free and observe. And to me, that's not the role of what we're supposed to be doing. Like, if we want to see the new curriculum in place,
We would make an appointment.
we schedule an appointment.
Oh, great.
And I wouldn't want that to be our practice.
Absolutely.
You know?
Right.
So I feel like I want to be, this is,
And
I
thoughtful
really-
about the intention of why we're doing this.
Right, I really don't care. Like, if everyone wants to do it, we can do it. Like, I don't want to just keep spinning our wheels on it, but I want to make sure, like you just said, the intent of what it is that we're doing is fine. Like, I don't want to do it because somewhere, someone's just gonna, I don't want to set the stage that, you know, all right, you're CORI'd now. Bop on in whenever you want. You know,
Or that means you're
does that mean you
CORI'd,
don't have to
so.
sign in now? I mean, like, does it take precedence because you're CORI'd? No, I still want you to make an appointment if you're planning on observing, which I haven't because you know, I've never felt the need to do that because we don't evaluate the teachers, you know? And I wouldn't know if a new curriculum was working or not.
It's not like to see if it's working or not, it's just checking it out and see.
Yeah, but for me, that would be, you know, I wouldn't know because, so it's new material. The last time I was in school was so many years ago, you know, it's all new, how they teach it, how they teach math, how they, you know, all of that stuff is completely different from when I went to school a million years ago.
My only caveat to this is if we do this, and again, I'm not like really honestly for or against, I'm kind of very just impartial because I see both sides of all of it, is if this goes forward though, that someone does not say, I'm CORI'd so I can walk the building by myself. Because I don't think that's appropriate either regardless,
I
because again,
agree.
what's that
And
intention?
I don't think that that's what it means.
But you're
yeah.
opening that gray area though, and we've said it now
Yeah,
numerous
but
times
would
that now.
that be the same case, though, that any parent chose to get CORI'd so that they could go on their kid's field trip? Now they feel like they have a right to just come
Well,
in and
that's
walk
where I
around
feel
the
like we're
but
setting
building?
up our practice as.
Yeah, right, but they
But
wouldn't.
why, they don't do that now, so
Well,
why?
and we don't, right now, as school committee members either.
No, but I'm saying we don't allow any parent that's
Because
CORI'd
a
to
parent
just
wouldn't have
walk
the
in.
same,
But I mean, do I then abuse my hat as parent, as school committee member as a parent?
It's so funny, like, I think I just don't even think that way, because it's just not, there's something I would do. Like, my mind doesn't work in that, like, devil's advocate side
I wouldn't
of-
either, but some people do. If you're saying to keep the honest people honest, right?
I guess.
or to say like.
Here's the deal, I don't,
Yeah.
and half our members aren't here, so I think we could end this conversation, and if we want to wait till there's a next
I
meeting
think I'm
with, you know.
sort of on, let's just put it in the packet. Like, you know, if people want to do it, they can do it, I guess. But I just want to be careful that we're not setting a precedent with this practice. That then means that we've got school committee members feeling, not our committee, but future committees, because once we establish it as a practice, it stays until someone repeals it. That,
I mean, so I guess the policy, do we edit the policy to say, like,
Well,
you
I
are
think
not
that's-
allowed to show up on it, like,
but that's what I mean, like, we
unannounced?
have a policy, we're just
So
trying to
what
adopt a
stops
practice
people
for
from
some.
coming in now, unannounced?
Nothing.
I don't even think it's the, well, unannounced isn't okay either, but I just don't want people to say, I'm CORI'd, so that means I can be alone. And then trying to, again, if we're adopting this, it's gonna be, you know, for the,
I think part of what prevents it now is, part of it's an expectation, but I think there's like a past practice, right? That this committee and prior committees wouldn't just show up unannounced, they would make an appointment, things like that. So I think that's established like the past practice.
Right.
But that, to everyone's point, like that could change with one member or two members at any point between now until eternity.
I
I don't either.
you know, I know Jill had a lot, like, I felt like maybe more eloquent feelings about it than I'm able to express, so I really don't care if we want to do it. I just think, to me, it seems the reasons for and the reasons against, like, we've never,
So how about this? Once we land on a school committee retreat, the onboarding, like the onboarding process
agenda.
and like bringing new members in could be a topic that we discuss, and this would be part of that discussion. So we don't need to do anything right now. If we keep it as a retreat topic, then we might be able to have a conversation and say, as I'm looking through this onboarding packet, then, it does make sense to just have it in there and people can do it or don't do it, and then that way we can make that decision.
And then the other thing is, if the school committee member comes in and is CORI'd, does that mean, do they still have to then get re-CORI'd as a chaperone?
No. Once we have a CORI on file and it's within that 3-year window, they wouldn't need to.
So that, in
For
that
the
case,
regs,
I
they
think
wouldn't.
we've said it, like, all 3 of us are currently CORI'd in the school.
I don't think I am.
Well, and then,
You haven't been a chaperone?
I can't take time off from work for that kind of stuff.
so I guess, if we're gonna keep going, I do have a question then for Kimberly, though, is like, what do we constitute as being a bad CORI? What does that look like? Because it's any charges, whether
Yeah,
you
there's
are
like a
guilty
whole-
or
yeah,
not,
there's like
right?
a-
But it's super gray, it's extremely gray.
Yeah, there's like a
I looked it up,
prop-
it's
there- yeah.
very, no, because it has to be like an actual charge, like brought to you by the state of Massachusetts. What constitutes that, and who kind of are we to, I want to make sure that I want to get her opinion on what that looks like. Especially if then we're telling the administration, hey, so-and-so, I know someone could have a bad CORI from something that happened when they were 18, a charge that got completely dropped, but it could still pop up in a CORI. So what do we deem is, okay, you can't now walk through or whatever unaccompanied, like
Well,
what's
what
that?
do they do now to say that a parent can't be a,
That's, I guess, my question. If Kimberly was already kind of iffy, I would like just her input on what constitutes
Yeah, so
that.
there's like a process that we would have to follow. There's some things, like bullet points that you have
Right.
to go through and consider. If it happened in 1984 and there's
Right.
nothing sent, like you take all that, like the severity of it, does it involve
I just don't wanna be adding
children,
on
things like
additional
that. We have to
legalities.
go through that, and obviously, we would be in consultation with Kimberly should there be questions.
Okay, so just what was her
about
feeling on that, and if she was comfortable with like adding something, onto that, that's all. Other than that, yeah, let's add that to the packet.
Yeah, again, Kimberly's feeling was, she didn't know of any district, she wasn't aware of any district that required it and didn't have any draft policies to require it. But she said if you wanted to create one, that could be done.
Okay. Moving on.
that was far too long, my computer fell asleep.
All right,
Still not a week.
so committee liaisons. I know that we're missing our, 2 of our members, but I'm just gonna say, I feel like we need to kind of get these going because we're,
Doing it next week, right?
yeah, we're supposed
Our
to have
next meeting.
committees, next week. And then, I don't know, it feels like we're pretty late in the game to be doing that just because of our circumstances.
My only question too was that, like, what were we gonna be able, we all seemed pretty comfortable with what we had, but obviously we need to share too.
Right, well, we've added a couple of newer committees. But like Jill was already voted in for
Yeah,
CES
it's
last
on
time,
there,
so.
Can you just clarify, you mentioned committees next week? I just want to make
Not
sure I'm
next time, I
understanding.
think, not.
Yeah, not next week.
Next
Oh,
time.
Sorry.
our next,
Our
okay.
next meeting.
It's like looking at my
Sorry.
calendar. Okay.
And then policy, I'm pretty sure that you said you and Jill were
Yep.
good with that. And I feel like we already had voted on that one as well, but.
We did not.
We did not, okay.
No.
We just discussed it.
Correct. And that was one of those too that, like, I'd love to do, and I think Jill too, goal and eval, just because, we barely got our feet wet with it.
So for
You
my
know.
2 cents, I would love to have the 2 of you do it and then really document the heck out of it so that the next time
Agreed.
there's,
Agreed. It should be someone else so they can get a turn.
right,
too.
but if you guys, this will be your second time doing it
Mm-hmm.
and you had a lot that even as you were going through the eval, you're like, oh, we want to make a note of this for next time or whatever. So
Right.
if you guys can document that and make sure all the dates are in the calendar, that
I
would
mean,
be
the
my
other
feeling.
option would be that one of us decides to step down and let someone else learn
So that
it,
was my only other
you know?
question, was I don't want to we do need to leave room for a new member to be on a
Correct.
subcommittee.
Right.
And we're getting something like goal and evaluation that, I wouldn't want to stick someone brand new on budget and finance.
Well, the
or-
only caveat is it's a 1 year for him, right?
Right.
Yes,
So,
true.
like, it'd be one thing if it was someone that was going to be here for 3 and,
Right.
everyone taking those turns to learn things.
So I,
But I know Jill was interested, but,
so the other thing is, we can establish these committees, and there's nothing saying that we can't adjust as needed as we go,
Okay.
right? Like, there's nothing set in stone.
Yep.
Because we're doing this sort of on our own. There's nothing, no particular policy or whatever, so we
Yeah,
can
as long as we
try,
get it back on the agenda.
right,
Yeah.
to reorganize them. And it'll, you know, might only be one or two committees that it impacts. We can vote on it at any time, I feel like, if we,
Yeah.
Yep.
if we need to.
Budget and finance,
I don't know, I kind of feel like, is that a good spot for someone to learn?
budget and finance.
I think you should be on budget and finance.
I'm already on 2 though, or am I not on 2?
No, you're on 2 right now.
You're on too. But you have so many of the budget questions, so I feel like that's somewhere
Well,
that,
it's definitely an area that I need to, work on, I feel like, but I don't know if I know the right questions to ask still. Like, I feel like that's where
I would only be weary of loading like 3 committees on one person, because then when we do meet during work groups, that's gonna be very difficult for that person to
True.
actually be able to manage. So I
Especially
would try
during
to keep
budget
it.
season's very similar to
Correct.
goal and evaluation season.
okay.
And with 5 of us, it just doesn't,
I am gonna pull myself off of, community relations, and I think that might be a good one for George.
I was actually thinking budget and finance too, though, because that's one has a vacancy. It was you and Gen M.
Right.
So that could be a spot.
So
for-
I can step down from budget and finance, but it's always sort of been the president that, the
think she meant
precedent.
Phil.
No, I meant
Jen's
Phil, I meant
spot.
that he could fill in Jen Millett's spot
Okay, but,
with you.
so like, I'm okay with that. I just think that might be super overwhelming, especially for a 1-year term.
But technically Audrey and I only have 1 year on ours as well. Because
Okay.
we're all, we're both up next year.
Okay,
So just to
All
play,
right.
Start talking to your friends.
well, I'm just saying, just to play fair, like it's
Right.
technically, we are all, the 3 of us are all 1 year.
Yep.
so I was gonna say, I can come off of budget and finance, but it's always been a precedent that the chair of the committee is on that
Yeah, I
one.
think
So-
I think
should
you should
be on
absolutely
it.
stay.
Okay.
You've-
And I know
Yep.
there's some, some concern about his attendance and his schedule. Have we ironed that out yet?
We don't know, like, it sounds to me like he has an alternating work schedule and he has a military obligation, so we're gonna have to just see how it goes.
And I think overall, he felt that
He should be able
with
to do it.
the July and him being appointed last week, he wasn't sure. He felt, in my last conversation with him, that at least one of the August meetings, and when September hits, he should be able
Yeah,
to
so
make
then
those
he was
meetings.
feeling like once he knew, that it was just kind of tough midstream for him
Yeah.
to come in because of how the timing worked out, so.
Yep.
Um,
I think calendar would be a good one for him too.
yeah. So what are we saying, budget and finance, do either of you want it? Or do you want to be on it? Or do we want, we can put George on it, it might be really interesting to kind of,
Yeah, I mean, I was all
Well,
for.
were you weren't on that
I
either
wasn't
last
on
year,
that.
right? I feel
No,
like you
I was
always
on,
have good
I was on
questions, too.
community relations and, I stepped into collective bargaining. And again, I don't want to put myself on 3 either. Like it would be, you know what I mean? So,
so Jill is already on too?
yep.
CES and goal.
And if I stayed on community
Actually,
relations
Jill's on-
and
Jill's
Jill's on
bargaining.
3
But
because
she
CES
wants CES.
Right,
Yeah.
but CES is not, they don't meet during our meetings. I think that being on 3 subcommittees that meet during work groups would be very difficult. So as long as CES is kind of separate.
So you need one, do you want to stick with?
I wanted to stick with community relations and collective bargaining if possible, but I can totally change collective bargaining to go to budget too,
So
but
someone's gonna have, because we have extra ones now, we've added some.
what are,
Collective bargaining was added just because we're going into negotiations,
Right.
so.
and I think that one's a schedule, that's a tough one. Like I wouldn't want to put George on that because that's a tough scheduling one.
Right. Which is why.
Well, but sometimes he works evenings, right?
But collective there are a lot of like 3 o'clock.
And it could be, Kimberly said this week, it could be, again, you guys know past practice better than I. But she did say, I'm just
I
trying.
just
But I
don't-
think he has a rotating schedule.
Right, I just know I have a very flexible schedule, and I struggled with the amount of,
Yeah,
so I just, that was a tough one to put someone who has,
You know, that's why I,
do we want to peg off a couple and vote on the ones we're sure on and then just move on?
so I.
Which I guess would only be that policy and goal, because Jill and I were both interested, but
did you want to stay on community relations, or did you want collective bargaining?
Kimberly did say in terms of collective bargaining, teams are allowed to have only one school committee member if you want it, if the school committee would prefer to do it that way. So she did put that in there. But that's one that I think
So I could be
There's
on that and
some-
attend
there's
when I
some-
can, right?
there's some urgency
That's what we
to
did
try
last time.
to set
Yeah.
that because we need to start identifying dates.
And I like having two.
is that going to be a
in-
hard one for you though, Jen, if they make them often?
Well, so sometimes I'm able to do it, it just depends upon when it is, and if I can make up the time in the week. Like, if it's on a Tuesday, and I know I have the rest of the week to make up time, I can, I can accommodate at my schedule. But the other thing is, if we're both on there, and one of us can't make it, we can still have the meeting,
Which is why I wouldn't want to go to one, only because of that.
right? So
Yep.
I think that would be fine. So put me on,
So put me and you on collective bargaining.
yep. And then,
I just realized I don't have to keep writing B after your name anymore.
I just did the same thing.
look at, I did too. I didn't even write me, I wrote Jen B. That's funny.
I wrote it the first time, and the second time I was like, I don't need to write a B, there's only one.
Oh my god.
So do you think, I think community relations might be good for George or calendar? Which do you think?
I think
Again, we can readjust.
I think it's always great to have potential ideas from other people on how we reach out to the community, so I
Right.
like that idea.
And then the only one we don't have anything on is the calendar subcommittee. And I do remember last year, we used the first couple meetings as calendar to make sure our calendar was ironed out.
But I don't know that we necessarily need to have a calendar committee, to be honest.
Well,
this
what I was
time.
gonna say is, we could just have that out there, and if we feel like the calendar's slipping, we can add it, and it can
Right.
just be an item on the agenda? Is that a fair way to do it?
Yeah, actually, I was just thinking that if we just put the calendar on the agenda either in August or September and look through what Audrey and that committee.
It was Jen M.
Audrey and Jen put together this year, then we can just kind of look at our year, tweak things that we might want to tweak, and then use that for 22, 23?
Right.
I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
Because you guys did so much work to set us up, now we can
Right.
we could just have one, one work group meeting and have, 20 minutes where we work as a group
Yep.
to make sure that the calendar is updated, and just
Right.
kind of, every few months or something, when we do it, have, just kind of.
And it's one of those things that you can just pop open and be like, all right, is there anything, when we're creating our agenda, even for, the beginning of the month, that we need to tackle this month?
We
you
could
know?
even put the calendar as like a standing agenda item when we do subcommittee meetings. So
Yeah.
we spend 5 minutes or
That's a good
10
idea.
minutes
Good idea. I like that
before
one.
we go
Yep.
in, so
Yeah.
everybody talks about it.
Yeah,
and
real
then
quick.
Then it's everyone
before or
is on that,
after
and-
committee
Right.
meeting.
Yep,
So the only other thing
So then that would be whole committee.
yep.
Yeah.
is I am gonna have, because my only subcommittee that's gonna meet during work groups is community relations, because collective bargaining won't be during work group. I can always float, right, to whatever, because I'll be the only one that only has the
Yep.
community relations, so I can just,
Okay, yeah.
Well, did we decide who else was on budget?
We put George, I thought.
Oh, okay.
I guess, and we could always give him the option to not overwhelm him, and if he doesn't want to do community relations and budget, I could always step into budget.
All right, so why don't we?
Does that make sense?
Right, 'cause
budget,
if
we don't
you
need
did
to-
it,
We don't need to.
And then
really
he
worry
could
about
float and
budget
kind of see all
right
of
now in the
the,
summer,
you know what I
right?
mean? Like, that might be a better
Like to have-
option,
like for-
No, but
is if you just did it.
I'd like to expand that a little bit to include like budget and operations.
Okay, so the reason I'm
Fine.
asking is, can we push it off
makes more
to
sense.
Yeah,
vote
we'll
know
start
what I
on?
mean?
here.
Is-
Like,
yeah.
we can start those like in the fall.
In the fall?
Yeah. 'cause
Okay.
To be honest, my
gonna bring it
personal,
up?
I've said this
Yep.
every year, like I
Okay.
prefer to have 2 committee members members on there that are experienced.
So, yeah, Audrey just brought up too, what might make more sense is if Jen and I do budget and let George float
That way
so that he
gets
can
to
see all of them
Great idea.
while he's here.
All right. All right, so we have it. So this is what I've got. Make sure we've got it, and then we can just vote as I'm reading them. You guys can just say so moved. After.
Sounds great.
So for CES, Jill. Policy, Jill and Audrey. Goal and evaluation, Jill and Audrey. Budget and finance, Stephanie and I. Community relations, Stephanie and George. Calendar subcommittee will be everyone, and it'll be standing as the first agenda item on work groups. Collective bargaining, Stephanie and I. Can I have a
So
motion?
moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Perfect. Okay.
And again, noting that if anyone's not comfortable, we can obviously.
Yeah, and so let's try it for our next meeting, see how it is, and if it doesn't work, then we can add it to the agenda and make adjustments for the following meeting.
And which committees, subcommittees will meet next meeting?
Well, clearly calendar, I would say probably the policy / goal and evaluation, because you guys kind of doubled up your time a lot.
Goal and evaluation.
Well, the policy and then your goal and evaluation, you guys are both on it, you and Jill. And a lot of times you would do a few minutes of your policy and then a few minutes of your goals.
Okay.
And then probably community relations.
I was gonna say, community relations would be a good one to make
Yeah,
sure we do.
and then I'll float for community relations.
Okay.
Or, float between whichever ones.
Okay.
Is that good? All right. Superintendent's report. Great discussion, guys.
Am I lost again?
Got me thinking a little bit here too, Audrey, that goal and evaluation might be an opportunity to draft some school committee goals that the whole committee could then look at.
Okay.
Too. So like if the retreat becomes a really
Yes.
scheduling nightmare, then just a thought. And we can
Yep.
talk about it at that meeting, but I don't know.
I like that idea.
I like it too, because it's goals.
Because I think it's right.
Yep,
It's
yep.
not just my
your goals.
goals,
It's a
it's
goal,
our
yeah.
collective
Our
goals.
goals.
Good, good, good.
So,
I have a question, now that you mentioned that too. Do we
I
have
think we need a question.
previous, do we have previous goals that the school committee has had anywhere? Yeah, exactly.
We?
Uh-huh.
Do we?
Sure. Do they exist anywhere?
They should. They should be in.
Because again, this is like the first time that, in almost my third year, that this is happening, and I just kind of like to
So
see
I
where the
will
growth
say-
is coming from too, a bit. I don't know.
They were, you started, it was like COVID.
Oh, of course, yes, I know.
And I know at one of the meetings,
Super fun.
we were like, okay, this doesn't even make sense to, it was on one of the agendas and we just tabled it until,
Yeah.
Definite.
so, I mean, it's like, that's a long time ago when you start and think about it,
Yeah.
It's like almost three school
I'm just
years
one of
ago.
those people that like just does really well with, I need to be like super, like goals,
I
like
didn't
we could
notice.
list them and.
But
If not, it just all falls
We
apart.
can do a little digging.
should
We'll do a
it
little
be in the
digging to
drive
see
though,
what-
some of
Just
the
to
old
throw
ones?
something together.
It should be in our drive.
It should be in the
If
older
we, like-
drives, like
Like
probably
look in
1920.
2019, right.
Okay.
Because they were in there and it was all,
Okay.
like, all part of the stuff, like the strategic plan and all of those things, they're in there, they're certainly in there. If you were to come through all of that stuff, would you
Yeah, the
have,
strategic plan I pinned.
you should have
too.
access to all of
I
that.
do, okay, I'll look up the goals then. I can do that, Jackie.
And we'll,
Okay.
yeah,
But if you do find them and you want to like tagline them with like a super school committee goals year. No, just kidding.
yeah, and the strategic plan is like, as part of the entry process, like the next iteration. Really, strategic plan was intended to run 19 through 22, but with my transition in COVID, I think our priorities for last year, our priorities for this coming year are still going to be well aligned with that as we start to dive into the next iteration. And I don't anticipate it's going to be completely different. I think there's going to be some things that we just continue to build upon.
Okay.
But some also, some potential new things.
Okay.
And I think our goals were driven out of the strategic plan.
Yes,
Which does need to be updated.
yes.
All right.
We good?
Yep.
All right, so just wanted to give a brief summer update. So both schools, East Meadow has 11 students participating in 3 weeks of summer enrichment. Students have been engaged. We did get some pictures. If they're not on the website yet, they will be in the next couple days. The first week, those students did STEM work. They built mini telegraph, mini sun, earth, and moon model, and a mini elevator, a hydraulic excavator, a pom-pom catapult, and then they did a marble run, which I got a video of that they seemed really engaged with. This week, they're studying, they're doing a unit on Canada, which I don't know much about, so I'll have to stop by in the next 2 days. And then next week, they're returning on a unit around Greece. The junior-senior high school is able to run 2 programs for the first 2 weeks of enrichment that included pickleball and instrument lessons, and students were engaged and seemed to be having a lot of fun learning new skills, meeting new friends, and helping one another in a team-oriented environment. There were 9 students who were participating in those. Some were crossing over to both programs. So definitely not where we wanted to be, but to have 20 students involved, I think, I keep saying that this is our first bite at the apple, and we've already learned a lot from it. And I think we're building a foundation that will be better prepared for next year, so.
I can say Meredith took part in the pickleball and loved it. It was like a different kind of a vibe, just a couple hours in the morning, and they just had a great time.
Yeah.
She wants a pickleball racket, and she wants a pickleball court.
Yeah, so it's good, and I think I said at the last meeting, one thing we learned is we came out late and we put out so many different options, which spread the signups out, so we try to do some consolidating and things like that, and like I said, I think we've already learned quite a bit from this process, and expect that we'll be in a better position next year. But
I was going through it with Stella and was like explaining it to her or whatever, and I got through and it submitted. I was like, and I hadn't selected anything, so they emailed me and I was like, oh, I didn't mean to. Like, I was still like going through
I saw
it.
Stella's name on one, and I
Yeah,
was like, that's why she
exactly.
kept asking
Yeah,
about it.
exactly. Because I was trying to like see, and she was like, I didn't talk to my friends. Like, she had this like,
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, we'll plan better next year. But,
Right, yeah, and I think we're seeing what the kids like, what they don't, what's going to gauge their interest,
Yeah.
and so I'm happy that we got something up and running, and like I said, the work this year should definitely put us in a better position next year. I was going to announce Dylan Dubuque as our new athletic director. Already had an opportunity to do that. Leadership team will meet for 2 days next week for our 22-23 preschool year leadership retreat. So a lot of planning, and we met for a day in June where we did some reflection on the end of the 21-22 school year. That information really helps guide the agenda for the 2 days next week. Looking forward to that. It's really the one time in the summer that we're all able to get together, and we think really we start globally with the district, and then the 2 school teams have some opportunity to dig into what that looks like at their schools. So looking forward to that. Also said last month that we were in hiring season. We are still in hiring season, and still working to fill a handful of positions, but really making good progress at both schools. A couple of positions and changes happening every week, so still some postings going up and some shifting going on, but kudos to both Lisa and Allie and their teams for making the progress they have so far.
And we had an email about one more recent hire, but you haven't been able to talk about it at all.
Yes, so I didn't put it on this because I'd like to invite Brad to one of our meetings, but yeah, Brad Rosenberg was hired as the assistant principal here at Granby Junior
So
School.
I never got the email.
Wait, at East Meadow?
At East Meadow.
Oh, that's right, because she only sent it probably
So
to
you need
East
to
Meadow
tell her to
families.
include the entire committee, because I didn't know that.
Gotcha.
It just went to East, she sent it out.
Yeah, but she
Does-
should be,
does Joey
let
Meadow.
it send it to the school committee. 'Cause
Okay.
there's those of us that don't have kids in East Meadow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or, yeah, yep.
I saw his name somewhere else, but I was like, why didn't I see this? I don't know this.
Yep, absolutely. So, and that's all that I had.
Okay. Finance and operations, do you know what today is?
It's our anniversary.
Anniversary.
It's 1 year anniversary.
Is it really 19th?
Yeah, today's the 19th.
Yeah. So I did email them today, following up, because they had emailed me on the 29th, I think it was, I saw, saying they didn't forget about us, but the summer, people on vacation, we were on vacation, so I emailed her today to follow up and see where we're at with that. That was my one thing. Two, I completely missed this because I was on vacation last week, putting the Chartwells, having you guys vote on Chartwells. They were the only company that bid. So me and David did the review of the contract. So I will draft the letter formally recommending them, and then you guys will vote on it. I'll do that next time. They don't need to start till the start of the school year anyway, so there's nothing that we need to rush about. That's all that I have, other than, it's the end of the year, so we're cleaning up today, or this warrant coming up is the last warrant for FY22, so we got all of our FY22 invoices in, so now starts the actual cleanup and end of year process, which will go on for a couple months, and your reports due at the end of September, but I'm hoping to get it done before end of this year, so.
Any questions? Okay. Anything else before we go into executive session?
I have a question that I don't know if we can add maybe to the next week, I keep saying next week, next meeting, or whatever, but did you end up reaching out regarding starting the process for the kitchen? I know we had talked last meeting about doing a chair-to-chair email.
Oh, no, I forgot.
Okay.
It didn't, I thought
don't
we were
know.
it was gonna be brought up at the July 11th meeting, but I'm guessing it didn't. The joint meeting?
Yeah, no, it was such a quick thing.
Okay.
That's my bad.
I forgot about it for that, to be honest, I was there. And I
We all were, but I felt like it was so.
And I watched it, didn't
Yeah.
know that it didn't happen, but I didn't,
Yeah,
I just.
That's, we had said, it was like, oh, we'll try to bring it up, but they
Yeah.
were, yeah.
Yeah, it was
so-
business.
It was totally business, so.
It was a blip on my radar.
So we wanted to send the email just to see where we are on the kitchen.
Just so we can understand what the next steps are. when
Correct.
we
I wanna
expect
get
to
that
Get started.
Kitchen
Yeah.
ball rolling, if at all possible.
Who's on the committee?
And I met with Ken a couple of weeks ago, just a couple weeks ago now. They want to make some modifications at the high school, that were hopefully out of COVID for the most part, just kind of giving the students at the high school more options for food. And in doing that, they'll need some additional equipment that we've gotten quotes on, but we just need to make sure we have the electrical capacity in that little side room, if we can use some other areas, if we can possibly use some portion of the kitchen. We may have to, if we go that route, we may have to just see if the Board of Health will let us, if the building inspector will let us, so their Chartwells is certainly looking to expand on the minimal area that they have.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, for them too, though, as far as high school, that's like, they're the ones that usually can spend the most when they've got those options.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. they're just really obviously handcuffed now in that little room. Again, it was fine when we were going through COVID, but now that we're hopefully out of it, they want to.
Yeah, and it's not gonna be, like we were talking about a little bit before we started, is it doesn't look like it's gonna be free lunch, so we wanna have those, the way to drive up some revenue, right now, have some,
Well, what are some of the options that they used to have? Like, I mean, I remember a bagel bar in high school, a salad bar in high
To be honest,
school, like,
it's long ago before COVID. I don't remember. I remember we were doing like surveys with the high school kids on what they wanted, what they had, what they look forward to. So I can certainly, once we get Chartwell's in officially again, we can have them come on. Maybe it's something we can discuss. But I know they're itching to provide more. Universal free meals wouldn't really change that because we could still offer those a la carte meals.
for a price.
For a price.
Gotcha.
Correct, yeah.
Which we are sort of doing now anyway, right? Or we're doing it
Yes,
anyway?
very small,
Yeah.
very small things, but they wanna expand that menu. So even if we had free lunch, we could still do that. I think the students there.
and you can't have the food in the room that they eat in now?
We can't prep that food. We can't have food essentially exposed, prepped in that room because of the ventilation. But we did a little walkthrough with them last week in John, and there's a possibility we may be able to cordon off some part of the kitchen and utilize just the serving line that's already there. We discussed a couple options. If that's one of the options that Charlie was willing to go with, we'll have to possibly get the building inspector and Board of Health in to say, yes, you guys can use just this portion and this is what you would need to do to separate it from the rest of the kitchen. It might not be an option, but they're
Like I
rightfully
said,
so.
yeah. Because from what I'm remembering, because obviously I was at a large high school, like it was, the salad bar was in the kitchen area, like where we ate, but it was off to a side. There was a salad bar area, a bagel bar area, and that was in one of the kitchens. There was 2 dining areas, and then the kitchen was in the middle, and then on the other side, there was the hot lunch line was there too, and then on the other side was a hot lunch line, and then there was obviously the one I never went to. So
Yeah,
I
our
don't even know what
typical
was in that room,
setup,
but,
like when the kitchen is functioning, was there is like, the meal of the day is on one side, so if it's shepherd's pie or.
the hot lunch.
Yes, and then they have sandwiches, pizza, cheeseburgers on the other side that they go
Okay.
through, so depending on what kids want, there's really, when the lunch is full, there's really not a whole lot of space in the cafeteria, but there were instances where they would do like a salad or a taco bar on occasion, so
Okay.
it might be something.
Right.
The
Are we-
space, like, we're like,
Continuing to allow them to eat outside too?
I anticipate that, yes.
And the senior class that just graduated donated picnic tables as their,
Yeah,
as their
I
gift.
love that. I would have
Yeah.
loved to have been able to eat outside.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, I think it's been,
great.
that's been one of the nice things
Yeah.
too, that students have the free, I think, like, supervising it becomes a challenge and stuff, but we've
Right.
kind of worked through that and,
Yeah.
made it work, so I don't see that changing.
Okay, thank you.
And just to circle back, the email, to just Glenn or to Glenn and John, or who do we want me to send that to?
I think it should be both chairs.
Okay. And I'll copy you guys in on it too.
Great.
All right. Jill's not here, and she said last time that they're not meeting until September. So if there's nothing else, we can vote to go into executive session.
I guess I should just note now that it's come up, I sent that both to everyone last week, those asked for transfers, and Finance Committee had approved both of those transfer requests last week for
Oh, great.
the transportation overage, which was unanticipated, and then unanticipated work on an exhaust fan on the new roof.
That's great.
That's great.
I love that we're opening up that line of communication with them like that and have it, like,
Yeah, I've had a couple of, I've had numerous productive calls with Chris over the last, one reason being that Ariel's now remote, so I've kind of had to go to Chris for some things that maybe she wouldn't have gone to him in the past or he'd emailed in the past. It's just easier to pick up the phone. This kind of all came down. I was on vacation last week, so I had no choice other than to call him. So we did submit those transfers, and he had offered to sign those transfers, it's either a school committee chair or an elected official, and he had offered, as long as it was okay on our behalf, which we said it was okay, instead of tracking you down, he would sign those forms for us. So I prepared them, sent them to him. I'm not sure if you guys watched the finance committee, but the gist I got from him is they approved the transfers formally on the finance committee, but they still needed us to submit the completed forms. So I submitted them on Friday to him. I haven't heard anything back. I'm assuming that means they're okay. But we did get an email from John LeBear saying, yes, we've approved them, but we need the completed forms. So
And part of it was, Adam was on vacation last week, I was at a conference, so we were doing this
Yeah.
from all over the place. And so we were able to submit the numbers that we were asking for to them first before their meetings, and then the paperwork followed. It lagged
Yeah.
a little bit, but I think Adam and I, and Megan, who was involved in it, both are all recognize that, like, keeping this on our radar, transportation, things like that, we can be in a better position next year. And I think you're right, like, we've had good open communication with them.
I'm just appreciative for it
yeah,
all the way
yeah,
around. I know the
yeah.
effort that you guys are making, that they're making. I feel like it just
Well,
makes
and
me
these were costs that, like, I think prior, like, we were absorbing or taking, from somewhere else. So the fact that, like, the communication's opening up now, and they did see that, like, that we shouldn't be doing that, having to pull from within and bring it to them, and that they are being, proactive in helping us with those is
Yeah,
a
and to
big
be
step in the right direction.
To be fully transparent, like, the full overage, and again, this isn't because of misuse or misallocation or anything like that. There's things that come up over the course of a year that
course.
you don't plan for, an exhaust fan on the new roof going, that's not under warranty, different transportation costs. The total was really about 65,
two change.
yeah, plus the
Oh, plus
exhaust
the exhaust fan
fan.
was 65,
So
yeah,
about
yeah.
65,000. So we worked together with Megan to say, all right, we identified some savings here. So we didn't go for the full ask, and we were clear with them that this was the total, but this is what we're asking for these reasons. And I get the sense that they appreciated that it wasn't just saying, oh, we didn't anticipate any of these, so we're asking for everything.
Right.
Well, no, if the special education revolving account was a logical place to absorb a cost, then we absorbed the cost there. So I think they saw that we were being responsible
Even if
about
we can
it.
absorb the cost, just letting them know
Yeah.
as it's
Agreed.
happening, I feel like that's part of what they were saying. It takes away some of, I'll say, the mystery and air quotes of how the money gets spent, right? So
I think we need to be careful though when we say like
no, I mean, like,
absorption. You know what I mean? Like,
I think
where we found
we've been doing that,
savings,
and then
yeah.
it would be a shock to them when we said, there was overrun at the end,
Yeah.
but if we're just opening up these lines of communication and doing this, and you guys are doing a stellar job, and I think it's starting, like, baby steps forward, right? Like, I think it's helping overall, we're involving them more, so there's not gonna be any questions as to why, because they know what our budget is, they know how everything was itemized out or whatever, and so it's like, this happened,
Yeah.
and just, I think we're doing a good job. And I'm saying we, like, I have anything to do with it whatsoever, but the collectively.
Yeah, no, I think you all,
let's put our mouse in our
No,
pocket.
but I think you all kind of, like, the questions that you ask and the things that you ask for, I think we think about as we're having these communications, and even what Audrey is saying, to be careful about saying absorb. I don't know how else to say, I know what you're
I know.
saying, but it's tough because our budget gets approved in June based on numbers that we had available to us in April and May of the year prior, and if a teacher who is on the top end of the scale resigns and gets hired, we hire somebody, so like, they're over the course of the year, and it can work the other way too, where a teacher in year 2 resigns and we hire somebody with 10 years' experience, so it can work both ways, but I hear what you're saying, and
It's just always those sticky wickets, because people will pick up on
Yeah,
a
no,
certain thing that you say.
I
and
get
they're
that, I
like,
totally get what you're saying.
You
and
know.
I think you're right, like, for us to just say absorb, which is why I try to provide a little bit of context with
Right.
it, because, like, our budget isn't like, the number is fixed, but there's so many moving so many moving parts. A year ago, I don't think I had an idea, and as a principal, I knew there were a lot of moving parts, but there's just so much to it that ebbs and flows. So I appreciate that, and I agree with it. I don't know how else to say it, but.
I think it's just making sure we kind of circle back to it every time,
Yeah.
sadly, because you never know the meeting that someone's going to pick up and then be like, oh, how did they absorb? Like, it's
Yeah.
just kind of throwing it out there, saying the reality that it is,
Yeah.
That's why I kind of throw some of those out there sometimes, because it's just important to kind of keep bringing back up to the surface,
Yep. Yep.
So just one more point, so we had some work done to an exhaust fan on the roof of the high school. That was part of the transfer that we asked for. There is some additional work that needs to be done on another exhaust fan that we got a quote for that will,
Now, these are the brand-new exhaust fans,
yes.
and they're not covered by warranty.
I don't believe so, and we asked her, so Steve and I went back and forth, do we pay for this, do we go to the town because they put them on there? And Chris is like, we put them on there, but now it's your responsibility to maintain them, which makes total sense.
Right, because it's just like the rest of the building, right?
Yeah,
So-
and I believe we did that 3 years ago now, probably longer than that, 4 years ago.
2019
So they're
it
probably
finished.
out of warranty at this point.
It just seems like,
Usually when they
inex-
start breaking is
Yeah.
right when they
Yeah.
get out of warranty.
seems
And
inexcusable.
they've been pretty clear with us that they're just replacing, this last one, they just replaced the whole unit because it was cheaper than to try to dissect it, take it apart and fix it. I believe that's what we have to do with an additional one, but I can follow up, but there's work that we
So-
did budget for.
How many exhaust fans are there? So we're
23.
two
Sorry.
of 23. Is there anyone that can inspect the rest of them? Should we bother to do it?
I'm sure John will probably have them while they're here. If he didn't already, maybe take a quick glance at them and see. It's one of those things I don't think.
How did we figure out they weren't working?
They go to a centralized computer.
Yeah, they're
and-
tied to John.
right,
John
so
will
it's-
get alerts.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
So are we positive that they're not in warranty? Like someone checked and made sure that it wasn't a 5-year or anything?
I'm pretty sure John did, but I
Okay.
can certainly follow up.
It just seems so
Yeah,
wild.
I'm 99% sure, because that's one of the first questions.
I'm
Yeah,
sure,
yeah,
I'm
twice,
sure,
yes.
I'm sure.
They
Just,
have asked.
I just,
But
right.
We can
Yeah.
confirm.
Just to confirm, because I didn't want it to sound like, oh, we didn't even check.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Wow.
All right, anything else?
No, I'm good. Sorry.
Stephanie?
No.
All right. We're going to vote to enter into executive session under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21, Part A3, to discuss strategy with regard to collective bargaining, as doing so in an open session may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the committee. The committee will not return to open session. Can you do a roll call for us, please?
Ms. Bartos.
Aye.
Ms. Karen.
Aye.
Ms. Huda.
Yes.
All right. Thanks, everybody.